What up, y'all? It's your boy Lucas, aka Television's Hub from TikTok. If you know me, you know I like The Walking Dead. And if you don't know me, I like The Walking Dead. So that brings us to today's topic. We are going to be ranking every season of The Walking Dead 11 to 1. I'm not necessarily going on any criteria. I'm just ranking them off of how much I enjoyed them. So let's just get right into it. Starting off this list at dead last. Drumroll please. Season 8. Now, I was pretty disappointed after watching Season 8. I had such high expectations for a season that I knew was gonna wrap up the Savior War. And I love Negan's character as well, but let's be honest with each other. The way his character survived after all of this, the way Rick kept telling him, I'm gonna be the one to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Then Rick slicing his throat and then saving him. It's crazy, man. And I know he has his reasons for doing that, but it's crazy to me. There was all this buildup just for a flop of an ending. But that's just my take on it. But besides that, with all of this stuff going on, my absolute least favorite part of this season was the death of Carl Grimes. Easily the most unnecessary death in the entire show. It was just completely out of the blue, which I'm not dissing it necessarily because of that, because it's the apocalypse, let's be real. But it's the way that it happened. He was killing walkers that didn't need to be killed. They weren't in his way or anything. He was killing them because Sadiq's mom told Sadiq to always kill walkers to relieve people of their pain. And Carl just wanted to be a good guy and help out. His character had so much more potential than to die in a dumb way. And this season had a ton of potential. It just didn't deliver. At the number 10 spot, I have Season 2. Whoa, one of the earliest seasons of the show this low on the list? Yes. For me, the only redeeming qualities of Season 2 were the characters that were introduced, alongside Rick and Shane's final brawl at the very end. I love Maggie, Herschel, and even Beth sometimes, but I wasn't a fan of the farm at all. It was a bit boring. I don't know if that's the right word for it. It was interesting to see Laura get pregnant and Shane grow more and more jealous of Rick and what he has. And of course, Maggie and Glenn start dating, so that's another important plot point. It had its moments, but it's just not my type of season. I guess the best way to put it is that it was more like a drama season compared to the other seasons. There was a lot less Walker action. It was more conflicts between the characters. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with liking this season. In fact, I initially had it higher on the list. And I did love seeing some of the character development, but I just like the style of the other seasons better. Coming in at number 9 is Season 7. The infamous Season 7, or the Negan season, or whatever floats your boat. There was so much gore, despair, and mourning in that first episode, huh? Hey, at least the cliffhanger over from Season 6 was solved. So this season had a lot going on, and we really learned a lot more about the Saviors. That is one of the things I enjoyed most about this season. That and the intense hatred Alexandria and all of the other communities had for the Saviors. It united them against one common enemy. Because of course we're introduced to the kingdom in Oceanside and my boy King Ezekiel. And I see people hating on Ezekiel because he's a king and yada yada yada. There can be kings in the apocalypse. I don't care what anyone says. I enjoy his strange medieval style and empowering speeches. Not to mention, the dude has a tiger. Name me one person in history that has a tiger and isn't badass. Anyways, Negan's ruthlessness really shined in this season. And I feel like this season's more of a build-up to Season 8, which as previously mentioned features the end of the Savior War. But I really wish we saw more from Carol in this season. We saw her be an absolute badass in Season 6, just for her not to accomplish much in Season 7. Overall, the whole season was just a bit underwhelming, just like many of the other seasons down this low in this list. Coming in at number 8 is Season 11. Yes, the final season of the show, even though it's not done yet, and I probably should have waited to make this video, but I'm impatient. So I initially wasn't a huge fan of Season 11, and obviously you can tell where this is ranked. I'm still not a huge fan, but it still has some good moments. I really enjoy the Negan and Maggie dynamic in this season because, you know, hanging out with the guy that killed your husband, it must be pretty weird. I also really love Aaron in this season. He has become such a badass compared to when we first saw him in Season 5, alongside Gabriel. As far as the Commonwealth goes, I'm not gonna say I'm the biggest fan of it, but it's still fascinating to see a full-fledged community of people with currency and a judicial system. Also, those moments with Herschel and Negan, those are interesting. It makes me wonder if Herschel's gonna grow up and take revenge on Negan for what he did to his dad. Overall, it's a decent season. I'm not gonna say it's trash, because it's not. And I'm gonna say right now, that episode with Connie and Virgil, that was terrifying. One of the scariest The Walking Dead episodes I have ever watched. But yeah, this ranking of Season 11 could go up depending on how it ends. It could even be bumped up to the top 5 for me. But as of right now, it sits at the 8th spot for me. Coming in at number 7 is Season 6. So this season marked the return of Morgan as a consistent character, which I loved because I'm a huge Morgan fan. Some new characters introduced in this season that I particularly like include Negan, Jesus, Dwight, and Heath. even though Heath had a very underwhelming and short stint. My all-time favorite moment in the season though was the Morgan and Eastman flashback. We see where Morgan got to be so damn good with that staff of his. I'll tell you what though, that weird fake death for Glenn in the episode Thank You was stupid. There was no feasible way he survived that, if we're being honest. I guess he just got insanely lucky because the dude's body fell right on top of him into a horde of at least 50 walkers. But for the people that were watching this season when it first came out, that must have been rough watching that final episode. It ends on a cliffhanger of Negan killing someone and you have no idea who. Now by the time I watched season 6, season 7 was already out, but I can imagine how worried you'd be. And Carol was a badass at the beginning of the season too, when she was killing off members of the Wolves disguised as one of them. So yeah, a pretty middle of the pack season for me, but I still enjoyed it. Number 6 is season 4, just missing out on the top 5. So this was when the conflict with the governor came to an end, after the governor's final failed assault on the prison. Episode 8 in this season was insane with the death of Herschel and the final fight between the governor and Rick, which the governor would have killed off Rick too if it wasn't for Michonne. And that's a cool little thing there because Michonne used to live with the governor's people. After the conflict with the governor at the prison, the group was split up for a little while, but I found it so dope that everyone had one common goal: find Terminus. Everyone managed to see the same signs on the train tracks. We also see the introduction of characters like Tara, and the show was still pretty fresh at this point. We also get a weird sense of hope when they're all traveling towards Terminus, thinking they found a place with many other people where they can just calm down. They are really wrong, but it's still cool to watch these characters work towards hope. At number 5, I have season 10. The first part of this season, if you ask me, was just average, but the second half was amazing. We see the end of the Whisperers and the introduction to the Commonwealth. We see Negan's backstory, which might be my favorite Walking Dead episode ever, the return of Maggie, and one of my favorite parts was Michonne realizing that Rick is still alive and still out there somewhere. Unfortunately, that meant her story is halted as of now, at least her story that we see, because she left on her quest to go find out where the hell Rick is. Also, the whole thing with Negan becoming one of the Whisperers just to kill Alpha for Carol, that was amazing. I was so surprised too, because I haven't read that far into the comics. I had no idea that was gonna happen. Overall, a really good season. At number 4, I have season 3. Season 3 marks the premiere of the first settlement of sorts, which would be the prison. I really like the prison arc, especially because they start fighting the governor's group, and he is a fantastic villain. And part of the reason this season is so high is because it was the first major conflict that Rick's group faces. And not only was it one of the first, it was one of the best. The governor was unpredictable and unstable. Rick also goes through intense pain and conflict within himself because of the death of his wife, Lori. She was one of the only remaining members of his family that he had with him. He goes through this intense battle with himself and he's borderline crazy for a few episodes. Also, Herschel in this season, I loved it. He had to get his leg cut off because he got bit, yet he was still a productive member of the group. We also meet Michonne in this season, who is my favorite character in the entire show. And Andrea in this season is now with the governor. We see the return of Daryl's brother, Merle, and there are just so many redeeming qualities of this season. And that is why it is top 5 on my list. Breaking the top 3, coming in at number 3 is season 9. When people think of season 9, you think of the departure of Rick Grimes, which was the most memorable part of the season. And I know that there are mixed feelings about the 6-year time skip, and I'm kinda neutral about it, but if I had to lean one way, I'd say I liked it. On one hand, it's cool to see Judith running around and killing walkers, and it's amazing to see that she still has a sense of sympathy and empathy in this terrible, dead world. But on the other hand, it's just a crazy amount of time that we lost. I mean, 6 years. There's a lot that can happen. At least there were flashbacks and stuff to recover some of the time that was lost between that big time skip. And before the time skip, we see Negan at his weakest point. He's begging someone to kill him because he knows he's gonna be stuck in that cell forever. But after the time skip, we see he's pretty much accepted it. He's almost okay with it. And I really wish Rick never left. The only part I like about that is we got to see Michonne take charge of Alexandria. And with the introduction of the Whisperers, it was a very good season. The Whisperers gave a sort of new life to the show. They're one freaky group of people. They were a very scary group, and the show hadn't been that scary since season 1, I would say. And speaking of season 1, that's who I have at the number 2 spot. The main reason on why I have season 1 up so high is because we were immediately thrust into action. They did a fantastic job carrying out this season, especially the first few episodes. It was so raw and purely about people trying to survive and figure out what the hell's going on. Rick trying to traverse his way through Atlanta and find his family. Those scenes in episode 1 might have been some of my favorites. I will say, I would have liked to see Rick on his own longer. The fact that he found his family so fast is kind of crazy. I would have liked to see him spend the whole season trying to find his family and make the season finale him finding his family. But I'm not gonna complain because the group he found had some staple characters of The Walking Dead in it. Glenn, Daryl, Carl, and more. Also, shout out T-Dog, one of the most underrated characters in that group. I was absolutely hooked after watching the pilot episode. This was the only season with Frank Darabont as the showrunner, and I would have loved to see him do more seasons. He clearly had a great vision about what he wanted the show to be like, but unfortunately he got fired. So that means coming in at number 1, I have season 5. Overall, season 5 is just, it's art. This season is somewhat of a turning point for Rick because after the events of Terminus and him murdering all of the Terminus people, he is a changed man. He has gone rogue, and he will do anything to survive and protect the people he's close to. The pacing was perfect, and it wrapped up everything with the Terminus people and creeped into the Alexandria arc. And Alexandria is still around, even in season 11. It's a pretty fast-paced season, but it's not too fast. It doesn't build up to a lackluster result like some other seasons. I'm looking at you, season 8. And it also introduces some very good characters like It also introduces some very good characters like Aaron and Gabe, alongside pretty much any other Alexandrian. And I wasn't a huge fan of Gabe at first, but I will say he's grown on me. Season 5 is a sort of calm before the storm, alongside season 6 because the saviors come. And at the very end of season 5, we see Morgan's reintroduction. Morgan as a sane man, at least, because the last time we saw him, he was batshit crazy. But yeah, season 5 of The Walking Dead, my favorite by far. So that marks the end of ranking every The Walking Dead season 11 through 1. If you have any video ideas for me in the future about The Walking Dead or any other TV show, just let me know in the comments. And let me know your thoughts about my rankings, because everyone has different opinions. That'll be it for today. Love y'all. Have a blessed day.